There we go. We should have sound now. Welcome! Welcome, everyone. I don't have a lot to say to start things off. I got a lot of commissions to do. So, we're going to do them. We're just focusing on coloring today. We're gonna go kind of between this one and this one here. This one, as you can see, I'm still working on the flats. This blue background seems a little weird and plain right now, but I'm gonna paint a whole kind of cloudy sky background in here. Blue's gonna be the base color, so it looks a little flat and bad right now, but you know, we'll get there. That's the whole point of painting. Both digital or traditional, our painting is you gotta start with one color at a time. But since we're waiting for people to kind of pile in here, let's work on this one here. I do not like how much space it takes up. Hold on. Let's move this. I like this preview to be nice and big for you guys, but I feel like it's taking too much of the screen. Alright, so whenever I'm doing any kind of piece here, especially coloring piece, I like to start in the back and work my way to the foreground, like start background and kind of just move my way to the front. That way I can get really all the lighting established and the textures established to really make the figures really fit into this world. So, okay, so I put all the background colors all on one color layer here. For safety, I always duplicate this layer, just in case something goes horribly wrong. I still have kind of a copy of that layer to go back to. Alright, so let's start with this back wall. Now it's kind of a stone wall here. Stone-ish, concrete-ish. So first thing I'm going to do, even though there's several different colors here, I'm going to select all these colors. And kind of apply a little bit of a gradient to it. Now I'm not going to do a gradient like just using the gradient tool, though that would be fine. Excuse me. I like to use the airbrush tool. That way it doesn't look as uniform. It looks a little more organic. So I'm going to kind of darken up the colors towards the top here. Then I'm going to pick a nice light color, like a yellow, and lighten up the bottom a little bit. That's good. Deselected, but I want to keep this selected here. Alright, so that's a great start. We're excuse me. I need to take a sip of water here. So because it's kind of like a stone concrete, I don't want this to look too smooth. So I'm going to switch my brush over to my charcoal brush. And let's see. I think we can use the same two colors. And I'm going to kind of hit certain spots here. Give it a little bit of a texture. Switch over to my light color. Put some light in there. Like you'll notice too, like I don't keep it strictly light and dark. Like this is going to be where the light section is, and then this is only where the dark is. I kind of overlap it a little bit. Kind of helps with the making it feel a little more organic in its lighting and the texture. I'm just really lightly hitting it. I'm not my tablet is, or my stylus is just barely touching the screen. Alright, let's see how that works. I like it. Okay, so last thing for the very deep background is I'm going to put in, actually, gotta do a little bit of cleanup on this line work here. I don't know how I missed that line. Back to the colors. Okay, so so we have these kind of bricks and these just other kind of like textures or structure, I should say, built into the wall here. So you kind of want to bring that out. Now, you could do that with like a straight line tool, but I want this to feel a little bit more rough. So what I'm going to do here is use my lasso tool. Just kind of lasso where I want the light parts to be. And since I'm just using the regular lasso, it's not going to be perfectly straight lines. It's going to be a little bit of a roughness to it. Now, even though I'm kind of going over each of these lines here, this isn't going to be filled up completely either. It's not like wherever I'm lassoing is just going to be like a hard, light line. I'm going to hit it with the airbrush after and just kind of hit it in certain spots to bring out some highlights. Since I'm doing highlights here, I want to make sure I'm consistent and be on the same side of the line. I don't want to be on the left side on some of these and on the right side on others. I want to keep it as consistent as I can. Which shouldn't be too hard. It shouldn't be hard to consistently draw a lasso on the same side of the line. do for this part. Let's switch this over to my airbrush. Do a yellow tone again. Again, I'm just going to do this real light. I don't want to overpower anything. If you zoom out, you see how it just brings a little bit of texture to the brick there. Makes it feel a little more 3D. Since we're on this side, I'm gonna... Let's see, yeah. So on the sidewall, it's not as cut and dry as just brick shapes. But I do still want to keep it consistent. Now, if I ever get a little overzealous here, you see how I kind of lassoed through that wall there, or through the wall, through whatever this device thing is. Since I put all the colors on the same layer, I can just switch my lasso tool, or I'm sorry, my magic wand tool, and just deselect that color. Get back to it. So I think that will do just fine. Switch back over to my brush. Show me the right layer. Just get a little light. While I'm here, I'm just gonna just throw a little bit of a highlight onto these little squares. Just to help bring them out just a tad. I feel like I'm very much like Bob Ross today. Painting happy little Super Bowls. Oh, I cracked myself up there. Alright, so let's hit this just real light. Because it's the background, you really want to be subtle. If it's too overpowering, it's gonna overwhelm your foreground, which is obviously not a good idea. And even the very little I did right there, I still think that was too much. So I'm going to do that again, but just even lighter. Much better. So I'm going to kind of jump ahead just a little bit. I'm going to go back to putting in the textures in the brick, but the final version of this piece, the background is not going to have black lines. Again, I want to push the background to the background. I want our main characters to really be standing out very strongly from that background. And an easy oh man, I'm coughing today. An easy way to do that is to have the foreground lines be darker than the background lines. Obviously, black is very dark, so all I have to do is create a line that is lighter than black, which is every color. But I'm going to select the darkest part here of the background, and then I'm going to make it just a little bit darker, not quite black. Create a new layer here, and bucket that new layer. But Shono, you got rid of the background. I know it looks that way, but if you look over here with my layers, my line art layers here, the color layers on top, and if I do this little clip layer here, or the clip at the layer below button, it makes everything that's on the layer directly below the color above. So here's without the clip layer, here's with. You see how that really helped push the background into the background. Alright, so now that we got that going for us, hit save and have a sip of coffee. Okay, so that was like 3 sips. Sue me. Alright, back to the wall. Here. Really gotta make sure I'm on the right layer. Clean up this line up just a tad. Go back to my main colors. It looks like I missed a little bit here. So I'm going to grab my charcoal brush, just kind of hit it a little bit. Now our main villain here is kind of taking up a lot of the space, so we don't see a lot of the wall here, which is fine. Just going to keep doing what I'm doing here. Switch back to airbrush. Some of that texture. Always make sure you have that shift button pushed down, or else you're gonna lose everything you're lassoing. Looks like, see, zooming in helps sometimes. Looks like I forgot to hit the wall back here. All right. So if we zoom back out, the furthest thing back, I keep missing these textures. Anyway, all right. So let's do a kind of blink test here, back and forth. So this was the flat colors when we've just started out, and this is after just doing the very back wall. We haven't touched any of the machinery, anything in the middle ground. Just the farthest back wall, bam. I think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Alright, so let's do the floor next. So we're going to do kind of the same way, but the floor is going to be a little bit more smooth. I don't want the I don't want to have the wall texture in there, so I'm just going to airbrush it to start. Let's see. What color do I don't want to go too dark, because I have plans. If I go too dark, I won't be able to do it. Just kind of hit there. It should, no, it might be too dark. That'll work. Let's get a nice yellow color going. Some white here. All right. Now I imagine this floor is going to look kind of shiny. Now the way you can do this, there's a few ways you can do this. The way I'm going to do it is by putting dark shadows underneath the objects on the floor, but kind of make them like a gradient going away. But not like away like in any particular direction, but away like straight down. Like literally down in the sense of this drawing. So here, so to make it look a little more reflective, I'm going to pick the object of the color the object that's reflecting. Make it just a tad darker. And just hit it with the airbrush. But I made a mistake, as I often do. Deselect that. There we go. You see how that makes the floor look a lot more reflective now? We're going to do the same thing with this box. I want to have just a tad bit of overlap. Tubes and vats here. What color? This is all kind of like that's the other thing. You need to make sure it's darker than the floor itself. Alright. Or much lighter than the floor itself. So the secret for making these floors look shiny, make it look like the object that's sitting on the floor is being reflected down into the floor, and then create some surface level texture to make it look like it's just going through the plane there. So I'll show you, once I get all these shadows put in, what we do with the highlights to make this floor look shiny. But we're getting there. It's already looking pretty good. Let's do our main characters. There we go. That took a few tries. All right. All right. So we got essentially what's the reflections into the floor here. Let's save it before we get too far into this. There we go. Now, but excuse me. Much like what we did with the wall here, now we're going to put highlights into the floor, focusing on the grooves here. Now this time I am going to use the straight line lasso. Because unlike the bricks, this I want to feel more straight and machined and manufactured here. Before we do the cross parts, let's just stick with the verticals. Alright, switching over, get a nice light yellow again. Right. Let's hit that real quick. Now I don't like how thick that was. That is in the middle there, so I'm gonna actually take a step back and thin that out. let's give it another try. There we go, that looks much better. Alright, I think I'm going to call that floor done. Give it a save. And I always like to do comparisons, just so to reaffirm the fact that I'm actually doing something. It's easy when you get stuck in your process to just feel like like you're not actually achieving anything. So this is how we started. This is our flat colors, and this is with the back wall and floor done. I think that's pretty good. I think that looks great. Alright, so I think I want to switch gears for a minute. Let's give that one more save. Have a sip of coffee. As great as this piece is coming out, I'm in the mood to draw a little less science fiction-y, a little bit more fantasy. So I'm going to switch gears over to this piece here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. All right. So what I'm doing over here is I'm still putting in the flats. Let me switch to my regular lasso here. Alright, so I'm in the middle of putting in the flats for our Pegasus. Now, it's a little frustrating because the background is starting with this blue here, which is, you know, I chose that color. But the horse and our main character also has blue in their costumes, their clothing, so it's blending in a little bit with the actual background. It's just frustrating, and it's gonna go away once I get the background all painted in, but for now it looks a little off. I always hate the flatting stage, just because I love drawing, I love inking, and I love doing the final renderings, but I hate the flats. And the main reason I hate the flats is because it takes the really well rendered drawing, like the drawing itself, like the line work, and it just makes it look like a coloring book, and it flattens everything out. I mean, whoops, which makes sense. They're called the flats. It's the flat colors. That's, you know, what it's supposed to be. But I just spent a lot of time doing line work and cross hatching to make it feel 3D. And then the flat colors undoes all that work. And it's only temporary. It's only temporary while I, get all the flat colors in. But it's still, that stage, I just feel bad, I guess. For those of you who are watched me on Tuesday, the death emote. Those of you who were with me on Tuesday will remember me drawing this emote, and Twitch finally approved it. So for those of you guys who are tier 2 subscribers, you can now type the death emote, and if you're a tier 1 subscriber, you can do the wolf emote. Still need to come up with an emote for my tier 3 subscribers. I don't know what I should do for them. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. And welcome, my Penny. Glad you're able to join me. I think I want to change this color a little bit. I picked the same gold that was in her armor. I feel like that's going to get confusing a little bit, so I'm going to just shift the hue a little bit. Make it a little more orangey gold. Just a tad. There we go. Mostly because I want to make the saddle here gold. I didn't want it to be the exact same color as the uniform or armor, costume. I don't know. What do I know? This hair looking a little more natural. So how's everyone's Saturday so far? actually think I'm going to do the same thing with this blue here. I picked the blue in the that's in her uniform, but I think it's better if I dulled it just a little bit, so it didn't compete. I think the other reason I hate flats is because it's hard. I mean, it's not hard to fill in like your coloring book, but you have to make all of the coloring choices. You have to apply color theory and get all your base colors down. Get the color palette going, pick the right color palette. That's hard. Once that's all selected and chosen, not that the painting part is a walk in the park by any means. You don't have to make as many decisions color-wise. It's mostly the only color decisions you have to make is really what shadow color is going to work best for the base color. Is it purple going to work best, or blue or green? What color is the light? That's really it after that. These flats are almost done. That will do it for the flats. You know, while I'm, drawing and working here, if any of you guys have any questions about my process, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, it doesn't even have to necessarily be about the piece I'm working on or art. If you guys have questions about my favorite toppings on pizza, if you guys just want to talk about an anime you like, I'm on board. now, I've not got my headphones out of the car from my trip last week. So I am sitting, you guys hear music. I am sitting here in silence, and it's driving me a little nuts. I usually have to draw with some kind of sound on it. I don't want the mic to pick up anything in the background and have that compete with the music that you guys are listening to. It's just going to sound bad. I'm doing a lot of cleanup right now. Just making sure lots are what I want it to be. I'm gonna change the hue for the horse hair a little bit. Give it a normal That works pretty good. It also helps it stand out from the wings, and the ears on the horse. Yeah, that looks good. I'll have to change the tail color too. We'll get to that in a sec. Color. All right. I think those are the flats. What do you guys think? Save. While that saves, I need to pull up a reference. Gotta do the clouds in the background next. So let's see. Let's get a good old reference for that. Oh, excuse me. So ideally, I want the clouds to be a little bit darker down at the bottom because I want to put a lot of like electricity effects going on around the spear. And the electricity effects won't really look that great against the white body of the horse because the body's white, electricity is bright light is essentially white. So I gotta put some dark clouds down here so I can have the lightning kind of like pouring into that dark area, making the lightning look brighter. But I also want like rays of light to be kind of shining down on our hero. So I still want clouds on here, but I want it to be a little bit lighter to show that there's a break in the clouds. So with that in mind, still, Can't find a good reference, so we're just gonna have to wing this a little bit. It's fine, we'll figure it out. Alright, so we're gonna come down here. We're gonna create a layer on top of our blue layer. We're gonna switch over to decisions, and all of them wrong. Here. I think after I made such a big deal about the color here, I think I actually want to make this a little bit grayer. Lower the saturation a bit. Yeah, that works. Use clouds, cloud brush. So I'm trying to decide, and the blue is working. I'm wondering if I want to switch over, or switch the background color to be more red. Well, this is working. But again, I want those clouds to be kind of darker for the lightning to really go off of. So I'm going to go back to our main brush here. Darker cloud color. Now the problem with this one brush I'm using is that it repeats the same pattern too much. It doesn't look natural, it just looks like just taking like almost like a stamp and repeating. So that's why it's important to kind of change up these brushes. So I have a blender brush here, so I'm going to pick a little bit of a lighter color. And I'm going to get rid of that repeating pattern. Switch it up. Maybe we'll put a little light fluffy small cloud here and there. A little too much. Now, the one problem is with the dark clouds, I can't have them go too dark, or else it's gonna fight with the shadow in the of the horse itself. Let's do such a... So I think this is actually working pretty good. What do you guys think? Looks like clouds will get a nice dark color here for us to put the lightning effects in. It's a little bit brighter up here. Maybe pick some lighter clouds. I don't want the clouds to be like white. Because if it is kind of like a storm, clouds, like, you know, when you see a storm kind of coming in, like, you see the dark clouds, but they're not all like black dark clouds. You see some white ones kind of mixed in there. So I want to have these dark clouds to indicate the storm. Not only indicate the storm, but to have a dark color to put my lightning effects on. But I want some light effects here too, so... dark edge here. So again, we're going to switch to light here, to white. Didn't like that wispiness, so I'm going to switch to my wispy clouds here. Gone a little overboard here. Alright. Let's pull it back a little. There we go. Create kind of like a clearing around where she is. There we go. That looks better. And then what I'm going to do is create kind of like a Alright, so now I think that those clouds look pretty good. What are your guys' opinion? And here is going to just brush just a tad up here, lighten up that sky just a tad. And then while that saves, let me have some more coffee. So, looks like I've been streaming for about an hour, and I can't do anything for this second. This is a good time to ask you guys if you haven't yet, why don't you give me a follow, or a subscribe, or a cheer, or a donation. All that stuff helps me make more art, helps keep the lights on, all that fun stuff. And you can get these cool emotes, the wolf for tier 1 and the death for tier 2. I haven't made a tier 3 one yet. I guess if I get a tier 3 subscriber, I'll have to create one. I'm open to suggestions for that. But I also have a Patreon, PayPal, I got all that stuff. So links are below if you're interested. And you can take down the boss if you donate or subscribe. There's only about 700 HP left. One subscription will knock sideways out of the boss spot there. Well, subscription and 2 follows. That'll be enough there to knock him out. You knock him out, you become the new boss. Right, let's create some cool waves here. I said waves, but I meant light beams. Pretty sure my brain's broken. Create some light beams here. Don't want it to look like these white light beams are converging at any single point on the screen or in the frame. I want it to look like it's converging way off the screen. So let's try that again. That's a good start. This one here, like that. And we're going to do some more, but we're going to do it on a different layer down here. Because if you do too many in front of the main character, it's going to look a little too much. So create some in front and some behind. That's the ticket. Right, I think I'm calling this background done. What do you guys think? Everyone's so quiet in the chat today. Alright, so, what do you think? Should I start with our hero or the Pegasus? Or should I forget it all and go back to this commission? gonna get one of you guys to chat with me here. Alright. I'll keep working this one for now. Until a brave soul decides to stop lurking and say something in the chat. So as I usually like to do, I'm gonna duplicate this layer for safety, just in case something goes horribly wrong. Well, I'm glad you're thinking it looks really good, Sly. I always do my best for you guys, so makes me happy to know that I'm actually doing it right and that you like it. All right, so. So the coloring, in case you guys are wondering, the way I'm doing this is I like to lasso the area that's going to be highlighted or shaded, and then I like to just hit it with an airbrush. The airbrush lets me have soft edges to what I'm coloring, where the lassoing kind of puts a boundary on it and creates a hard edge where I need a hard edge to be. It's the biggest mistake a lot of new digital artists make when they're just starting out. They usually have like a lot of soft edges. They'll just take kind of an airbrush tool to it, or even like the smudge tool, and soften all the edges. And that's fine, but if you look at real life, there's a balance between hard edges and soft edges. And having that balance is what's going to make it look a little more realistic. Even if you're not drawing in a realistic style, like obviously what I'm doing here, this is much more, you know, comic booky, illustrative. It's on the realistic side of things, but no one's going to mistake this for, you know, real life painting or realistic painting. So you can see how I hit it with the airbrush. You have the hard edge where the boundary of my lasso was, but it kind of blended into this nice soft edge at the bottom. And don't be afraid to ask any questions, guys. It doesn't even have to be art related. I know my favorite video games, my favorite toppings on pizza, my favorite superhero. Did I say that already? No. Another tip, I forgot to do it, is lock transparency there. That way you can't accidentally color outside of what you've already flatted. That helps. Please save a step here and there. I don't know if I'm going to do any line holds yet, so I'm going to hold off. Line holds, if you don't know, is when you color the lines. And so here's my line art here. So if I decided, and again, I'm not sure if I want to keep the lines black or not. But if I decided to do a line hold, I'd color these lines like that. So I don't know if I want to do that yet. Once I get this a little bit more colored, I'll make a decision. It kind of depends on if I want this to look more painterly or more like an illustration. I mean, technically it's an illustration regardless, but if I wanted to make it look more like a storybook where you would have lines and bright colors, or if I wanted to make it look more realistic and have a more painterly feel to it. And depending on that decision will determine if and how I do the line holds. Excuse me. Right now, I really like all the cross hatching I put in it, so I'm leaning towards not doing line holds, but cool thing about doing line holds is I can pick and choose where I do it. I might just do line holds in some selected areas that I want to softer? Man, I'm gonna need more coffee. Anyway, so let's get back to it here. When you zoom in this far, you can really see the texture of my brush. This light's kind of coming from this direction. Oh. I made a gesture on my screen, like you can see it, like what I'm doing with my hand. I did made this gesture across my screen, like you can see how my hand is in front of the screen, but you know, obviously not. Because my camera's not pointed at the screen. Yeah. Alright. One of these days I'm not going One of these days I'm not going to embarrass myself live in front of the internet. One day. Obviously, today is not that day. One color. Shadow underneath the nose itself. So I think this is coming out pretty awesome. What I'm going to do next is, well, I still got to do her eyes and lips, but before I get into that, I'm going to put a little color in her face. It's really, really easy when you're coloring people to just throw in, you know, some sort of brown for the base color of the face, and then just like a darker brown for the shadows, a lighter brown for the highlights, and then just call it a day. But if you do that, it's going to look very much like a plastic doll, I guess, for lack of a better term. So if you want to give a little bit of life to your character, you gotta put a little color in their face. Usually a little bit more of like a reddish color, like across the cheeks and nose, a little bit more of a yellowish color up in the forehead, and a little more of a grayish color down by the chin. I don't want to overdo it right off the bat here, so I'm going to just start with a pinkish color in the cheeks. Now I don't want to go too overboard here. If I do too much, it's going to look like she's either embarrassed and blushing, or she just put on way too much makeup. I don't want that. I just want a little bit, just enough to make her face not look like a plastic doll, and like an actual living human being. So that's where I'm going for here. A little too much. So my pink's probably a little too strong, so I'm gonna dull that up a little bit. Take a second attempt here. There we are. That's what I'm looking for. Probably still went just slightly too much. No. You know, I kind of like that. I think it's going to look better once I get the eyes and mouth going. I think also I want to soften up this edge here. Works. Actually, I think I didn't go quite far enough in one part here. Works. All right. Let's do her mouth, mostly because that won't take very long. It's amazing how just darkening that top lip really brings the mouth to life. that looks good. I guess eyes next, and then we can call the face done. What do you guys think? Am I missing anything other than the eyes here? You guys watching are the funniest group I think I've had since I started streaming. I don't think I've had this many people watching me and no one in the chat talking. So the importance when you're doing eyes here is making them feel like they're alive. You don't want them to look like they're dead. You don't want them to look like they're dull eyes. Oh, dull or dull eyes. So you really want to try to bring them to life. So the way you do that is by bringing in some shadow into the eye. So it actually feels like the eyes are sitting in a socket and not just sitting on the surface of the face. And then, the most important part here, I'm going to do this on a layer over the line art. We want to put in a reflection in the eye. Oops. Now those eyes look shiny and bright, and you're half doing some work around the house. It's looking good so far. Good. I'm glad you like how her face is coming along. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys probably put me on the background and watch while you do other stuff. I do the same thing with other artists I watch. Especially when they marathon Bob Ross. He's nice to have on in the background. So I'm sure I probably do the same thing. Or you guys do the same thing for me. You guys just put me on in the background. And I'm totally okay with that. I'm just totally musing at the fact that usually when I have this many people watching, there's at least 1 or 2 people constantly in the chat. And I've never had it this quiet before with this many watchers. But it is what it is. Alright, so I think I'm calling the face done here. So what I like to do is when I finish a section, I like to do kind of like a blink test here, where like we take a look at the flats and then put the highlights on top and see how it's changed. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so let's move on. Well, first let's give it a save, and then we'll move on. Alright. So let's do this plate armor here. So, hold on. Thumbs up. Awesome. Alright. So, the stripes and all that, the yellow and the purple look like they're painted onto the armor. So then I should paint all of it uniformly. Oops. I was talking before about doing line holds. Hey, Sideways, welcome! You like the colors on our armor? Well, you can tell that to Sly in the chat there, because this is their design as far as color goes. What got me interested in drawing comics? Man, way back in the 1990s when I first read Jim Lee's X-Men. That comic was so cool. I'd never seen anything like that before. It made me want to draw comics myself. Which is a story I think a lot of people have. I think a lot of people were inspired by that comic and Jim Lee's artwork in general. So I've always liked drawing and illustrating, and it wasn't until I got to college when I realized, oh well, okay, let's take a step back. When I started going to college, I wanted to study science. I wasn't quite sure what science field I wanted to get into. I just knew I liked science, and so I wanted to do that. I was probably going to be like biology or physics, or chemistry, you know, something. I guess that's the major fields. But I liked all of it, so yeah, so my freshman year I took a course. It was just a basic calculus course. Right, there we go. And I did not do very good at all. I only barely passed. I got a D- in that class. Now, I usually do really good in school, or at least when I was in school. It was rare I got below a B, let alone a D. But it was really hard. I was not prepared for college level calculus. I thought I took, calculus in high school. It's basic calculus, and I thought, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take out the purple from my selection. I think my highlight color is going to be too bright for that. Anyway, so back to the story. So once I did so bad in that calculus class, I realized I'm going to have a lot of trouble with all my science classes if I can't do a basic calculus class. So I started looking at other majors, and one of the majors that were made available at my school was illustration, so I signed up for some basic drawing classes because they wouldn't let you just join the art program. You had to have your portfolio accepted. So, and I didn't have a portfolio, so I had to take some drawing classes. And after a couple of drawing classes, I submitted, I got in, majored in illustration, and the rest is history, as they say. I'm expecting someone in the chat to say, "Cool story, bro," because that was not a riveting story. Sideways, since you've joined recently, the tier 2 emojis were approved. Now, I don't know what tier you belong to. You're probably only tier 1. I know you were in the chat when I was drawing the death emojis, so that's what the death emoji looks like. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Sly. It didn't prepare me very well. Well, I shouldn't say that. In certain things, it prepared me just fine. Like, that's the only class I had problems with. Like, all my other classes, like my history courses, my basic science classes I had to take, like Bio 101. I even took a slightly more advanced science class just for funsies after I joined the art program, an evolution class, evolutionary biology. I didn't necessarily crush that class, but I think I got like a B in it. So, but man, those higher level mathematics courses like really messed me up. That's looking good. Another reason I like to duplicate this layer is it lets me select colors I might have already painted over a little bit and select them as a whole. Glad you like the death emoji, Sideways. Still gotta come up with one with my third tier. I don't know what I should do for that one. Now the secret here for doing armor is contrast. You like my long pauses? So to make things look shiny, you need a lot of contrast. Having gradual gradients aren't going to make things look shiny. They're just going to look kind of dull. So having a lot of stark contrast here is what's going to make this look like shiny armor. A lot of hard edges. Get the right shape here so I can get the shadow look good. That's not ideal, but I think that'll work. Now that I've done that, I hate it. Let's try again. I think the problem with it is being too sharply up, or too far up onto the chest. I think we need to keep it more in the stomach area. Across all franchises, who is your favorite villain? Oh man, that is a tough question. And I appreciate you trying to be more active. If you got stuff to do though, don't feel like you have to, trying to get work done. Don't do it at my expense. Or don't not get your stuff done at my expense. Man. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I can't say words right. Anyway, with villains, I've always been a big Magneto fan. I think one of my favorite comics is the Fatal Attractions one, where Magneto rips out Wolverine's adamantium. Let's see. Who else do I really like? Let's see. Let's see. Well, if we go video games, I like Sephiroth a lot in Final Fantasy VII. I know that's kind of like an easy answer. A lot of people are like, yeah, Sephiroth. But when I think about Sephiroth compared to like Golbez in Final Fantasy IV, or even like Kefka in Final Fantasy VII, or I'm sorry, Final Fantasy VI, like Kefka is kind of, he's terrifying in his own way, but it's kind of like a lame villain. I mean, okay, he's not lame in like power, but he's lame in like he becomes essentially a god, and then he's like, all right, I'm just gonna wait for you guys now. Come kill me when you think you can. Where Sephiroth doesn't waste any time. He's just gonna destroy the world straight up. He's not gonna give heroes a chance to stop him. Yeah, Savage Move by Magneto indeed. And those covers were the best. I'm a sucker, even to this day, for any kind of hollow foil comic covers. I don't care. I know they were gimmicky, and they were just an excuse to drive up the prices of comics. But I love them. You like the intelligent villains, huh? You mean like super genius villains, or just like not like Skeletor? Skeletor's an idiot. Yeah, the late 90s were a magical time for comics, comic covers. Funny thing is, like, I remember the Fatal Attraction comics being sold at supermarkets. Like, and not just like in the magazine section. I remember in my local supermarket when those came out. I remember they had a display, like an end cap, just with all the Fatal Attraction comics. And that's something you'll never see today, ever. Have a whole comic event being sold at a supermarket. Oh, with clear plan. Yeah, Sly, I'm totally with you. Like, I don't like the super genius super villains that think they know better. Like you're like Ozymandias from like Watchmen. Like, he's super smart and he thinks he knows best. And he's a super villain not because he's trying to do evil per se. But my problem with those supervillains aren't necessarily that they're super smart and they think they know better. It's because for them to really work, the writers have to be super smart, and they often aren't. I know I'm not smart enough to write a super smart villain. The writer has to be at least as smart as Anyway, yeah, the writer has to be at least as smart as the villain they're writing for. So unless you're really super smart, your villain is gonna fall flat. Really does. And a lot of people don't want to do that research. Before I go any further, I was talking about line holds here. I think since the yellow is painted onto the armor, I think I'm going to do a line hold on that. So the armor looks less like a line I drew on it and more like a painted on line. So I have to be careful when I do this. I want to distinguish between the lines that are depicting the form of the armor and distinguish them from the lines that do the paint on the armor. My hatchings that kind of pick values, right there. Pick your battles, so to speak. Which lines to leave in, which lines to take out. The great thing about doing this kind of line hold layer is I can change it later if I decide that I want to either change the color or alter it a little bit or take it out completely. I think that looks much better. Let's do the same thing with the purple here. Good, I'm glad you're liking the armor. So I've been at this for a couple hours. I think it's time for another shameless self-promoting. If you've been watching and you haven't already, please give me a follow. If you want to support what I'm doing here, support more streams, support my art in general, why not give me a subscribe? Or you can cheer me on, or just click the donate button down below. All that stuff helps keep the lights on. More accurately, helps keep the tablet on so I can keep on drawing here. And a bonus, all those things I just mentioned, the follow, subscribe, donate, cheer, that all does damage to the stream boss up here in the upper left-hand corner. Sideways only has 700 HP left. $7 donation will take down that HP all the way down. Or a subscription and 2 follows will bring it down. And if you bring it down, you become the boss. How many weeks have you been the boss, Sideways? I know I was the first boss. I was usurped in the first, 2 days. Sideways has held on to it for a while. Wow, a month? Really? We strike you down. It'll be more powerful than you can possibly imagine. That's good, I like that. All right. All right. So let's get some reflections in here. Now, usually this is a bad idea, but I think I'm going to use straight up light for the reflection. Helps if I pick the right layer. So I'm curious. I want your guys' opinion on something. Uh, so last week when I was away, I ran a bunch of reruns to kind of have something playing while I was out of town. And that seemed to be a good idea at first. I gained a few followers and blah blah blah. But it really brought down my average views, because for each live stream or each rerun, only like a couple people would watch at any given time. So even though it was good that I gained a few followers, it kind of really brought down my watch average. So kind of want to know your opinion. What do you guys think about the me doing reruns? Should I do them on the days I don't stream? Should I not do them at all? Should I only do reruns on one day a week? Or maybe not do them all day, maybe do only reruns for an hour? What are your opinions on that? Oh, you like the background colors. How did I get the effect on the bottom half of the page? Mostly I have a cloud brush. So let's see, what is that? So a cloud brush, so I kind of mixed up the colors with these different types of brushes. I have like a big brush big clouds and a blending and an edger and a foggy. And I just kind of pick different colors and different textures from the different cloud brushes I have, and got this cloud effect. Alright, I think this is coming along. In an all-day one. Yeah, that's kind of also what I was thinking too. If just doing like, I don't know, like, let's say I stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, maybe like at 8 p.m. or something, I'll just pick a recent stream and rerun it. Would it have any negative impact on my view? It really just depends on who watches the reruns. If I get 5 or 6 people watching it, not really. It won't impact it barely at all. If I have 0 people watching it, yeah, that'll impact it quite a bit. Ultimately, it's not that big of a deal, my average viewers. It's a big deal if I want to reach partner. But I'm nowhere close to that, even when my average is at its peak. I'm nowhere close to meeting the standards to be a partner. I need about 10 times more average viewers. And I am way too small time for that, at least at this point. we're starting to get to the point where I hate coloring. Not that I hate coloring this piece, but it's when, like, I was speaking earlier how I hate the flatting, because when I flat this, it just feels like all the work I put into rendering the line art is now gone. So now I'm starting to render it, and the parts I've rendered look great, but it's sitting right next to parts that are still flat. So I always start second guessing myself, like, am I actually doing a good job with the rendering it, or am I failing really hard at it? And it doesn't really become too obvious until after I get more and more of it rendered. That's actually a great point, Sly. Doing reruns of tutorials instead of these kind of streams. Let's do it. Because that is definitely more instructional, so there's less interaction. Although I do often say in my streams, do you guys have any questions? I hate for people to be asking me questions that I can't answer. Although, I guess it depends on when I rerun it. I could hypothetically be rerunning it at a time where I'm around, and I can just be in the chat to answer questions. What do you guys think so far? Does this armor look nice and shiny? Put some white highlights in there. Looks great. Awesome. Is that you agreeing with Sideways, Sly? Awesome. Good. Glad pulling it off. Nope, nope. Her arm is black just because if you look, all the limbs that are kind of in the background are black. Like the horse's limbs are black. Her arm is black. It's not because of anything in particular other than just a stylistic choice for shading. It helps push the things that are supposed to be further away. When I get to that arm, I'm actually gonna, even though this is pretty yellow right now, I'm gonna darken that yellow so it helps push it even further to the background. Because right now it looks a little weird to have this bright yellow thing on the dark arm. But I wanted to put something on there because if it was just flat black, it wouldn't look much like an arm. Two, it would really flatten out the piece a little bit more than I would want. I mean, that's why the horse here has you can still see like some highlight lines in the shadow because I don't want it to look flat, even though I want it to be pushed to the background. So hope that makes sense. Hope that answers your question. All right, I think I'm going to call cool the main chest plate done. So let's move on. Speaking of that arm, let's put that in shadow. So I'm not going to put too much detail in it because I want it to be simple. If I put too much in it, it's going to stand out and ruin the whole reason why I put it in black. But again, I don't want it to look flat at the same time, so purple's probably not a good choice. Purple and yellow are complementary colors, so it makes a weird brown. The reddish color here. It's much better. I don't think I've saved this in a while. And now that we got the main breastplate done here, let's do my favorite thing to do. I like doing that blank. So that's the flat colors. And there's some values put in. Flat. Always save your work. Alright. So let's see. How long have I been? 2.5 hours? What time? Let's go for another 20 minutes. What do you guys think? Unless you guys are sick of me. You guys sick of me yet? Yeah, you would think it wouldn't be a huge difference. Adding those values go a long, long way. Even when you do like some cell shading, I was seeing if I had any cell shaded stuff open, but I don't. I didn't cell shade that one. So yeah, I don't have any cell shading open, but even when you add some cell shading, it makes a big difference on the flat artwork. Keep going if you can. All right, I'll keep going then. This is a little too dark. darker purple. See, a lot of beginners with when these colors, they'll kind of leave it like what I did here on the sleeve here. We'll just kind of hit it with the airbrush and let it be kind of a gradient going from that yellow to the blue. And that's a great way to start, but that doesn't really look good. That doesn't really look realistic. It ignores the form. So that's why then you go in with the lasso here. Pull out the forms. I picked the green color to be the reflected light. It's a tough decision to make for the reflected light because there's a lot of white around. And in reality, the reflected light would probably just be white from the horse or blue from the sky. But that doesn't make it for very interesting color palette when everything is already blue and white, to then have all the light be blue and white. So I picked a green color because it's related to the background color. But it's still a unique looking color, so it pulls out a little bit more interest visually. That's green enough. Saturate that green a little bit. So I was thinking for Tuesday, my tutorial was going to be on color. I haven't really planned it out a whole ton. I think I'll just focus on like basic color theory, like how to pick like a color palette and stuff like that for your piece. But we'll see how things go. If we get to it, I can show you how I color these pieces in a little more depth than just watching me do it as I ramble. What do you guys think about that? Also, if you guys have any specific requests for Tutorial Tuesday, let me know. Add it to my list. It's not a very long list, but it's a list. So, Sly, if you're still watching, Victoria's Under Armour here, with kind of the sleeves, and the dark blue under the armor, that's like a textured, like a heavy cloth, right? Like serves as like bonus armor, having that heavy cloth underneath the armor. Mostly, I'm asking so I can apply it the proper texture. I do have a playlist on YouTube. I don't know if there's a link to my YouTube down below, but if there isn't, it's just YouTube / Shadows of Oblivion. I don't ramble. I think that's very kind of you to say, but I'm pretty sure I ramble. Oops. Okay, good. I'm gonna to help contrast between the very shiny and smooth armor and the cloth here. I'm gonna put a little bit of a texture in there. It might not be too noticeable, but it'll be subtle enough to help the texture difference. Or, yeah, the words I said. There we are. Sideways, how's your piece of art coming? Last I saw was earlier this week, and it was coming along pretty nice. Ah, braids. You know what? When I do braids, this isn't exactly the perfect example, but I do something like this. We're just kind of overlapping lines, creating kind of like a triangle shape or diamond shape. So maybe that'll help a little bit. You have to tell the creator to make him a flat top. Oh, that's funny. You know what you should do? Give her a flat top and just say she's from an alternate universe. Exactly. It's comics. What comic doesn't have an alternate universe version of the main character? Or a character? Much better. Are you psyched for Heroes Con? I think I overworked that arm a little bit. It's looking a little muddy. This is why. I keep these colors, or this layer. Let's try that again. Yeah, I do have to decide what I'm going to do for the auction. Oh no, that's like 2 weeks away. Oh no. Oh no. Oh man, okay. Well, we'll figure that out. I guess I can ask the chap, what characters should I do for the Heroes Con auction? I should ask you, Doug, what are you gonna do for the Heroes Con auction? So last time I just did an airbrush here. I'm going to start with the texture. Yeah, that's much better already. There are no guidelines for the auction. Just any piece of art that you want to donate to the con to sell. It keeps the costs of the con down for everyone. It's a very superhero Western comics centric con, so usually superheroes do pretty well. But anything in like the indie comic sphere does really well. Like I did my first piece that made it to the main auction was an Usagi Yojimbo piece that did really well. Last year I did an Archangel from the X-Men. Excuse me. The year before that I did Beta Ray Bill and Throg from Thor. Let's see. 2 years before that, I did Gorilla Grodd. One did pretty good. Okay. The only one that I didn't do too well on, and it's not even like didn't do too well. It still sold for a few $100s, but my Ninja Turtle pieces usually don't do super well. Like my first Ninja Turtle piece sold for just under 200, and then I did a Bebop and Rocksteady that sold for like under 300. Not complaining, mind you. Most of my other pieces sell for over 400. So, just comparatively, that's low. It's much, much better. Less muddy. I just want to hit it with a little bit of light there. I was thinking about doing a Hellboy. Just because that Hellboy movie came out and it didn't do too great, so that kind of leaves a little bit of a yearning for people who are big Hellboy fans. They want a good piece of Hellboy art. Alright. Yeah, I always try to stay away from the mainstream stuff because there are a lot of like mainstream, like Marvel, DC heroes at the con, and they're gonna do Spider-Man better than I ever could. And even if I did Spider-Man better than one of those pros, no one knows me. I'm such a small timer. So even if my Spider-Man technically is a better drawing, a better piece of art than one of those big name artists, people are going to want a piece of art from the big name artist and not from me. So I try to do pieces of art that, or characters that maybe those big guys won't do. And that's not to say no one's going to do a Hellboy. Hellboy is much more, I guess in a relative sense, more obscure than Spider-Man. You know, like Usagi Yojimbo is like huge in the indie scene. So that's why the mainstream guys didn't really, kind of shied away from it a little bit, so that's why I did Usagi all those years ago. Dark Phoenix, you know, one of these days I'm going to be brave enough to do like a straight up X-Men piece. Because I love the X-Men. I mean, I did Archangel last year, but like that was heavily stylized and all that stuff. You know, making the stained glass and all that. One of these days, I'm just going to do straight up, just 90s X-Men. I'll do two pieces. I'll do a gold team and a blue team. Pretty good. Not bad for 3 hours worth of work. I could do I might be able to do a good Magneto. You're right about that. Especially if I do like a lot of black, make him look really dark. Like 90s Magneto, or even like maybe Age of Apocalypse Magneto, where he has like the long hair coming out from underneath the helmet. Alright, so let's compare. So that's our flats. Here's our renders. You know, you guys... Sooner or later, you guys are just going to take the microphone away from me because they just say the stupidest words. They're not even words, that's how stupid they are. And for those of you guys who kind of joined late, I started the stream off with this, the flats for this commission, and then I still have a lot to go, but I got that much of the background done. Decide to come on over here. We finished flatting this piece. Got the background done. And we got, let's say 3/4 of our main character done here. So all that we have left to do is finish her armor, do hit her lance, or spear, or battle axe. You understand the meaning, and that's what's important. I guess that is what's important. Oh man. Yeah. So, like I said, I've been at this for about 3 hours, so I think I need to take a break from this stream. Um, I don't know if I'll come back on later, but um, I, who knows? Uh, but so I'm just gonna say, since I'm gonna be signing off in a minute, if you are new watching and you haven't already, give me a follow. Subscribe if you want to support the stuff. Sideways, man, you keep holding on with your boss status. You still have 700 HP. I cannot believe no one's knocking you out of that. Anyway, so yeah, do all the things, the subscribing, following, become a patron, all those things that you're supposed to do. And my next stream is going to be Tuesday. It's going to be a tutorial Tuesday. We've talked about, I think I'm going to do basic color theory and then maybe a little bit of how to apply it. We'll see how it goes. It depends on who joins me and the questions you guys have for me. That will help steer the direction of the tutorial. And then after that, it'll be Thursday and Saturday again. And then I don't know if I'll be streaming the week after. That'll be the week of Heroes Con. Usually the week of cons I go crazy, so I might not stream that week. Yeah, any last minute questions from you guys in the chat before I wrap it up? Alright, you guys still might be typing something, but what I'm going to do over here, I'm not going to turn off my mic yet, but, oh, she looks great so far. Great! I'm glad you like her. I aim to please. So this will probably be done, I don't want to give it a time. I'm going to be wrong, no matter what I say. Hopefully soon. Hopefully in the next week. I need to clear out some spots for more commissions. Anyway, alright, so I'm going to switch over to here. You guys can still ask me questions if you need to, but I'm going to do the outro here. So, one of the reasons I'm able to do this is because of my patrons, which are these awesome people on the screen right now. So, big thank you to Angers McBeard, Anthony Dosimo, Brian Gilbert, Brooke Clayton, Charles Pinn, DevDuck01, Elizabeth, Lawrence Winston, Lily Avonley, Matt Powell, MC McClure. One of these days I'm going to get this right. Quickie Kicks, Seth Talley, Shadow Macer, Taylor Winesti, Tony T. Timonen, Zeriel Chickadee, and Doug Hogan. You guys are the best. You're why I can still keep making art. If you guys are, if you were watching my stream on Thursday, the Harley Quinn Gundam and the May from My Hero Academia pieces, those were for patrons. So if you want to see the full versions of those or get in on the next patron sketch, think about clicking that link below. And now I'm going to stop being shameless in my self-promoting and call it a day. So thank you everyone who's watched the stream. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye guys.